The silent observers, the galactic assembly had stood for 12,000 years. Its halls were carved from crystallized starlight, and its chambers held representatives from 417 species. They were the oldest, the wisest, the most advanced civilizations in known space. And they all agreed on one thing. Humanity was unremarkable. Counselor of the Talmary stood before the great observation window, his 3 eyes fixed on the blue planet below. Such a small world, such a young species, the humans, had been part of the assembly for only 70 years, barely a heart-beating galactic time. They listened during council sessions, they traded fairly, they asked questions, but they never spoke up on important matters. They never offered solution, they simply observed. Behind Ren, the emergency council session was growing heated. The holographic display at the center of the chamber showed something that terrified every species present. A dark mass was moving through space. It consumed everything in its path. Stars went dark, planets vanished, entire systems disappeared as if they had never existed. The devourer, they called it, an entity of pure entropy that fed on matter and energy alike. We have 6 months, announced High Arbiter Zelkos, her voice echoing through the chamber. She was a CR, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Her kind had witnessed the birth of civilization 6 months before it reaches the core worlds. Our best scientists estimate it will consume the entire galactic arm. Within 3 years, panic rippled through the assembled counselors. The Vorine delegation demanded immediate evacuation protocols. The Solari proposed building massive shield generators. The Hipari suggested weaponizing black holes. Each idea was more desperate than the last. What about the humans? Someone asked. The chamber fell silent. Then laughter began, not cruel laughter, but the kind that comes from absurdity. The humans. Counselor Dravix of the Moranti scoffed. They barely have faster than light travel, their longest space voyages to their neighboring planet. What could they possibly offer? Vin turned from the window. He had studied humanity more than most. It was his responsibility as their cultural liaison. They are resourceful, he offered quietly. In their short time among us, they have adapted quickly. Adapted. Dravix's 4 mandibles clicked in amusement. They have no psionic abilities. Their technology is primitive. They have no telepathic networks, no quantum consciousness, no ability to manipulate dark matter. They are children playing with fire. High Arbiter Zelkos raised her hand for silence. Nevertheless, they are members of the assembly. The protocols are clear. All member species must be informed of extinction level threats. Send the notification to Earth. The message was sent through standard channels, a simple data packet explaining the situation. The Devourer was coming. The galaxy's greatest minds were working on solutions. Humanity was advised to prepare evacuation procedures for their single populated world. Assembly expected fear. They expected requests for help. They expected humanity to beg for transport ships to carry their species to safety. What they got was silence. For 3 days, Earth did not respond. The council moved forward with other plans. The Talmary began constructing generation ships. The Kren initiated protocols to preserve their genetic material. The Somari started digitizing their consciousness into protected data vaults. Every species scrambled to save some fragment of themselves from oblivion. On the fourth day, Ambassador Chin walked into the assembly chamber. She was human average height for her species, dark hair pulled back in a simple style. Her clothing was plain compared to the elaborate garments worn by other ambassadors. She carried a single data tablet. She had attended hundreds of sessions, always sitting quietly in Earth's designated seat. Most counselors could not remember ever hearing her voice. Honored members of the Galactic Assembly, she said, her voice clear and calm, humanity has reviewed the data concerning the Devourer. We have analyzed the threat. We have consulted with our scientists, our engineers, our military strategists. Ven leaned forward. Something in her tone made his scales prickle. We understand the Assembly is pursuing evacuation and preservation protocols, Ambassador Chin continued. These are logical responses. However, humanity wishes to propose an alternative approach. An alternative? High Arbiter Zelko sounded more curious than dismissive. Please share your thoughts. We would like permission to attempt to stop it. The chamber erupted. Stop it, stop the Devourer, the entity that consumes stars, the thing that even the Kren with their 12,000 years of advancement could not understand. Counselor Dravix was laughing again. Ambassador Chin, with all respect to your species, you cannot be serious. Our greatest scientific minds have declared this impossible. The Devourer operates on principles we cannot even measure. How could humanity possibly? We've done the calculations, Chin interrupted. Quietly, the chamber fell silent at the breach of protocol. Interrupting a senior counselor simply was not done. We've run the simulations, we've tested the theory. It's dangerous. The success probability is 63%, but it's possible. Ven felt something shift in the room. The laughter had stopped. 63%. Zelko spoke slowly. Your scientists believe they understand something our finest minds cannot grasp. No. High Arbiter Chin replied, we don't fully understand it, but understanding isn't always necessary for action. Sometimes you just need to hit the right spot hard enough. She activated her data tablet. Hologram appeared above the central display. It showed Earth's solar system, but it was different. Structures orbited every planet. Massive installations floated in the asteroid belt. Something enormous was being constructed around Earth's moon. For 70 years humanity has been quiet in this assembly, Shin said. We listened, we learned, we studied every species here. We absorbed your knowledge, your technology, your history. And while we listened, we built. Because that's what humans do when we're afraid. We prepare. The hologram zoomed in on the lunar construction. Was a weapon not like anything the galaxy had seen before. It combined Tal'Mari energy focusing systems with Kren quantum processors. Sari shield harmonics merged with Mornti gravitational manipulation technologies from dozens of species, integrated in ways their creators had never imagined. We call it Project Defiance, Chin said. We've been building it since we learned about cosmic level threats. We hope we'd never need it, but if the Assembly grants permission, we're ready to deploy. Ren stared at the hologram. Humanity had done this in 70 years, while everyone thought they were just watching. Essex whispered, but his voice held no mockery now. Only a High Arbiter Zelkos studied the human ambassador for a long moment, and if you fail, then we've lost. Nothing the galaxy wasn't already Losing, Chin replied, but if we succeed, everyone survives, all 417 species. Every world, every culture, every story. Continues, that seems worth the risk. The vote was called, it was unanimous. Humanity was given full authority to proceed. As the session ended, Ven approached Ambassador Chin. Why didn't you tell us you were preparing for this? She smiled. It was a small, sad expression. Would you have believed us? Would you have trusted the primitive humans with galactic security? She shook her head. We learned from our own history. When you're the smallest voice in the room, you don't waste time talking. You work, you build, you prove yourself when it matters most. Ren watched her leave. For the first time in his long life, he wondered what else humanity had been quietly preparing, while the galaxy dismissed them as harmless children. In 3 months, everyone would find out. And GT, what they didn't see coming. The Galactic Assembly gathered in Earth's orbit for the first time in history. 417 species sent their finest observers to witness what many believed would be humanity's spectacular failure. These ships formed a vast ring around the solar system. Sensors pointed toward the edge of known space where the Devourer approached. Counselor Ven stood on the observation deck of his vessel, watching the human preparations with growing fascination. Art's moon had been transformed. The weapon called Project Defiance wrapped around it like a shell, covering nearly 70% of the lunar surface. A nerdy readings from the structure made his instrument scream warnings. Whatever the humans had built, it was drawing power on a scale that shouldn't be possible. They're going to destroy their own moon, muttered Commander Atrix of the Vine Fleet. His species prided themselves on military might. They had conquered 40 systems through superior tactics and firepower. Yet even he sounded uncertain as he studied the human construction. The energy required for their weapon will crack the satellite apart. Perhaps that's their intention, suggested Science Minister Yolara of the Samari. Here, crystal informed refracted the light from Earth's sun into rainbow patterns. Humanity may be attempting a sacrifice play, destroy their moon, create a massive debris field, hope it disrupts the Devourer's consumption. Pattern Brain said nothing. I had spent the last 3 months reviewing everything humanity had submitted to the Assembly archives. Their history, their wars, their achievements. A pattern had emerged that made him increasingly uncomfortable. Humans didn't sacrifice anything without purpose, and they certainly didn't build something this complex just to blow it up. Ambassador Chin's voice crackled across all communication channels. Attention, Assembly observers. The Devourer will enter weapons range in 20 minutes. We beginning final preparations. Our vessel should maintain current positions behind the designated safety barrier on Earth's surface. Something was happening. Brain enhanced his visual sensors. Cities were going dark, not from destruction but systematically. Every light, every power grid, every electrical system on the entire planet was shutting down. Begins of humans sat in darkness, their civilization going silent. They're diverting everything to the weapon. Ren whispered, every power plant, every generator, every energy source on their world. Madness. Counselor Dravix appeared beside him, his mandibles clicking nervously. They're putting all their resources into a single desperate strike. when it fails, they'll have nothing. No power, no defenses, nothing. But Gran was beginning to understand something. Humanity wasn't making a desperate gamble, they were making a calculated choice. They had run simulations. 63% success probability, John had said. Humans didn't commit to those odds unless they had accounted for every variable. The devourer appeared at the system's edge, even through sensors. It was terrifying, a ring mass of darkness that seemed to drink and light itself. Its thirsts behind it simply vanished. Space itself appeared to tear and fold. Around its presence, it moved with purpose, heading directly toward Earth's sun. It would consume the star first, then work outward through the planets. 10 minutes to weapons range. Chen's voice remained steady. All human personnel have confirmed ready status. Project Defiance is fully charged. Bryn watched as smaller structures across the solar system activated. Platforms around Jupiter, Saturn, and the asteroid belt began to glow. They weren't weapons themselves, he realized. They were focusing arrays, amplify. Humanity had turned their entire solar system into a single massive weapon installation. 5 minutes, the devourer filled the visual displays. Now it was larger than anyone had estimated. 3 times the size of Jupiter, and still growing as it consumed the scattered matter at the system's edge. Several assembly observers began retreating, moving their ships further back despite the designated safety zone. Brain stayed. If humanity was willing to bet everything, the least he could do was witness it. 2 minutes finale power transfer beginning. Airs went completely dark. Not a single light remained on the planet's surface. 7 billion humans sat in absolute darkness, giving everything they had to this single moment. The moon began to glow, not with reflected sunlight, but with barely contained energy. The weapon structures hummed with power that made space itself ripple. 30 seconds. Ambassador appeared on every display. Being here, Brain could see the command center. It was lit only by emergency lights. Oman technicians worked at their stations with absolute focus. No panic, no fear, used determination. To all assembly members watching, Jan said quietly, humanity wants you to know something. For 70 years you've believed we were primitive. Andy Marable, though young to matter in galactic affairs, you weren't wrong. We are young, old. Technology was generations behind yours. But you made one mistake in your assessment. The devourer crossed into weapons range. You assumed that because we were quiet, we weren't listening. You assumed that because we were small, we weren't learning. You assumed that because we were new, we had nothing to offer. But humanity has always learned from those stronger than us. We adapted. We grew. We took everything you taught us and made it into something new. 10 seconds. The focusing arrays throughout the solar system align. Streams connected them in a vast geometric pattern, all converging on the lunar weapon platform. Here's what you didn't see, Jin continued. While you built monuments to your achievements, we built solutions to problems you'd given up on. While you celebrated your superiority, we worked. While you prepare to run, we prepare to fight. Because that's what humanity does when faced with extinction. We don't accept it, we punch it in the face. 5 seconds. The weapon charged to full power. The moon blazed like a second sun. Fire. Project Defiance unleashed hell. beam that erupted from the lunar platform wasn't simple energy. It was concentrated quantum dissonance, wrapped in gravitational manipulation, guided by psionic mathematics borrowed from a dozen species. It was every advanced principle the galaxy had discovered combined in a way only humans had imagined. The beam crossed the distance to the Devourer in an instant and punched straight through it. The Devourer convulsed. Its writhing mass froze. The darkness began to collapse inward, pulled by the weapon's secondary effect, a contained singularity, artificial and controlled, formed at the impact point. The entity that had consumed worlds was being consumed itself, drawn into a gravitational anomaly that humanity had engineered specifically for this purpose. Secondary arrays act. The platforms throughout the solar system fire, not at the Devourer but at specific points in space around it. They were creating a cage, a whip of intersecting energy fields that prevented the entity from dispersing or escaping. Every calculation humanity had made, every simulation they had run came together in this single coordinated strike. The Devourer thrashed a space itself, rippled and tore around it. For a terrifying moment, Bryn thought it might break free. Then the lunar weapon pulsed, again doubling its output. The artificial singularity expanded, swallowing the Devourer completely. Silence fell across the solar system. The darkness was gone. In its place floated a contained quantum anomaly, stable and controlled, held in place by the focusing arrays, the thing that had threatened to consume the entire galactic arm had been trapped in a prison of humanity's making. Containment successful, Jin announced. Her voice was calm, but Bryn could hear the exhaustion in it. The Devourer is neutralized. Beginning power down sequence. Heirs, you can turn the lights back on. Across the human home world, cities began to glow. Again, billions of people emerged from darkness, looking up at their moon that still shimmered with residual energy. They had given everything to this moment, and it had worked. The assembly communication channels exploded with activity, disbelief. So, a species that had existed for thousands of years were trying to comprehend what they had just witnessed. The youngest race in the galaxy had accomplished what their combined wisdom had deemed impossible. Glai appeared beside Ren again. He mandibly hung slack. How, he whispered. How did they do this? Bryn thought about Ambassador Chen's words about 70 years of quiet observation, about humanity absorbing knowledge from every species they encounter, about taking that knowledge and combining it in ways the original creators never imagined because they were desperate. Ren said slowly, and desperation drives innovation in ways comfort never can. We've been insecure in our superiority for so long that we stopped pushing boundaries. We stopped taking risks. We stopped imagining that things could be different. On the main display, Ambassador Chen was giving technical details to the Assembly's scientific council. The weapon could be adapted, she explained. The containment technology could protect other systems from similar threats. Humanity was willing to share everything they had learned, every innovation they had developed. For 70 years we watched you, Jun was saying. We learned from your achievements and your mistakes. We saw how the galaxy's greatest civilizations became comfortable, how they stopped preparing for the impossible. We promised ourselves that humanity would never make that mistake. We would always prepare, we would always innovate, we would always be ready for threats. You consider beyond solving, Erbel spoke, her ancient voice carrying weight across the channels. Ambassador Chun, on behalf of the Galactic Assembly, humanity has our profound gratitude. You have saved us all. Ba must ask, what else have you been preparing while we weren't watching? Chin Smith was the same small, enigmatic expression had seen before. High Arbiter, we've been preparing for everything because the galaxy taught us an important lesson. The universe doesn't care how advanced you are, how old your civilization is, or how comfortable you've become. It will throw impossible challenges at you regardless. The only question is whether you're ready to face them. She posed, looking directly at the camera. Humanity is ready. We've always been ready. You just had to give us a reason to show you. Bryn watched as the human command center celebrated. Quiet celebration, professional and controlled, but celebration nonetheless. They had earned it. They had taken the galaxy's knowledge, added their own desperate ingenuity, and created something none of the ancient races had imagined possible. The galaxy had been completely wrong about humanity. They weren't unremarkable. They bent primitive. They weren't too young to matter. They were survivors, innovators, problem solvers who refused to accept that anything was impossible. And now, finally, the galaxy understood. The quiet observers from Earth had been preparing for this moment since the day they joined the assembly. They had been building, learning, adapting, waiting for the chance to prove that youth and determination could accomplish what and wisdom could not. The devourer was contained, the galaxy was safe, and humanity had shown everyone that sometimes the smallest voice in the room has the most important thing to say. They just needed the right moment to speak.